How could you possibly ever demonstrate that? It's indistinguishable from the fire, the physics of the fire that we know. The only way you could possibly prove it, it would be to have the little beings step out and say, hey, we're down here. Well, okay, that would turn science on its head, but you don't see anything like that.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
And for the people who, you know, accept the Bible, as evidently most of the Republican candidates do, based on that debate question, why don't you see miracles anymore? I mean, you take a look according to the Bible. I mean, you had the Israelites had pillars of smoke and fire parting the seas. They were fed manna from heaven and plagues and pestilence. And then Jesus walks on water and turns water to wine and raises the dead. And now
it just takes one guy 3 days lost in the woods with his kids to get found.
Yeah.
That constitutes today's miracles. It's really downgraded.
Yeah. Woo, I found my car keys. It's a miracle. Please. You know, there's this whole why won't God heal amputees question, which has come up, and it's a great website to visit, whywon'tgodhealamputees.com. And I think it's also a part of godisimaginary.com. You don't see miracles like that anymore. And why? Why is it that this generation, or that every generation that we have good historical data on, should be exempted from the type of evidence that the previous generations got? I mean, I think the whole God thing would be much more plausible if I saw dead people raised. I think the whole God thing would be much more plausible if, you know, I could cut off my finger and God could grow it back, or cure me of leprosy. It'd be much more plausible if I saw dead people getting up out of their graves and walking around. It doesn't necessarily prove a God, but at least it opens the door to certain possibilities that are currently closed because there's no reliable evidence that anything even remotely like that has ever occurred. All we have are stories and anecdotes. It's damned peculiar that the miracles seem to stop just about the time that we developed the ability to investigate, report, and record these things for posterity. All we get are these, you know, mythological. How is Jesus walking on water any different from, you know, Atlas holding up the earth?
Yeah.
You know,
or Muhammad flying to Mecca on the magic winged being.
I mean, it's mythology in every sense. And if you don't think so, the burden of proof is on you. You're the one who's claiming that there's something supernatural to this. And I'd really love to know if you believe that a God exists and he used to do miracles, but he doesn't now, I'd love to hear why.
Oh, there's an apologetic for that.
Go ahead.
So you might
I think I know the one you're going to use.
Yeah, it's the idea that I remember was that ever since, you know, since the Bible got solidified, that's the testimony. Yeah. And then you have to believe that.
Yeah, there's actually a passage that I was going to talk about a little bit later. We got an email from, I don't know what kind of words, and I'll get to that after we're done with that. We keep getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
But in Luke, there's a story of Dives and Lazarus, or the rich man and Lazarus. And the rich man's down in hell, and he's basically saying, "Oh, could you just give me just a little drop of water?" And Abraham, who's answering him, said, "No, no, no." And he's like, "Well, could you send Lazarus back to warn my brothers so that they don't end up in hell?" And Abraham basically says, "No. They have Moses and the prophets to warn them. If they don't want to accept that, it's too bad."
Big words from a guy that had dinner with God.
Yeah.
If Yahweh came and sat and had dinner with me too, then maybe I would believe like Abraham.
I can't believe that anybody could accept the idea that this God is infinitely just based on the acts that he does, first of all. The acts that are reportedly done at the hand of God, the greatest mass murderer in history, the greatest abortionist in history, all kinds of crazy stuff. But even if you disregarded all of that and said God is just, no, he's not. If you think he gave better evidence to some people and no evidence to others, not to mention the fact that if you think he's the divine, omniscient creator of the universe, who had options when he created the universe and knew the future, that he specifically chose to create the universe in which I was born at this time with no evidence and destined for hell. That's not just. But I'll get more to the just thing later.
Did you want to take some calls?
Yeah, let's